Welcome to Part 8. Historians hold Walpole's record in high regard, though there has been a recent tendency to share credit more widely among his allies. W.A. Speck wrote that Walpole's uninterrupted run of 20 years as Prime Minister, he was a Whig from the gentry class, who first arrived in Parliament in 1701, and held many senior positions. He was a country squire and looked to country gentlemen for his political base. Historian Frank O'Gorman said his leadership in Parliament reflected his reasonable and persuasive oratory, his ability to move both the emotions as well as the minds of men, and, above all, his extraordinary self-confidence. Julian Hoppert has said Walpole's policies sought moderation. He worked for peace, lower taxes, growing exports, and allowed a little more tolerance for Protestant dissenters. He avoided controversy and high-intensity disputes, as his middle way attracted moderates from both the Whig and Tory camps. Age of George III, 1760–1820. Victory in the 7 Years' War, 1756–1763. The 7 Years' War, which began in 1756, was the first war waged on a global scale and saw British involvement in Europe, India, North America, the Caribbean, the Philippines, and coastal Africa. The results were highly favorable for Britain, and a major disaster for France. Key decisions were largely in the hands of William Pitt the Elder. The war started poorly. Britain lost the island of Minorca in 1756, and suffered a series of defeats in North America. After years of setbacks and mediocre results, British luck turned in the miracle year, Annus Mirabilis, of 1759. The British had entered the year anxious about a French invasion, but by the end of the year, they were victorious in all theaters. In the Americas, they captured Fort Ticonderoga, Carillon, drove the French out of the Ohio Country, captured Quebec City in Canada as a result of the decisive Battle of the Plains of Abraham, and captured the rich sugar island of Guadeloupe in the West Indies. In India, the John Company repulsed French forces besieging Madras. In Europe, British troops partook in a decisive Allied victory at the Battle of Minden. The victory over the French navy at the Battle of Lagos and the decisive Battle of Quiberon Bay ended threats of a French invasion, and confirmed Britain's reputation as the world's foremost naval power. 64. The Treaty of Paris of 1763 marked the high point of the First British Empire. France's future in North America ended, as New France, Quebec, came under British control. In India, the Third Carnatic War had left France still in control of several small enclaves, but with military restrictions and an obligation to support the British client states, effectively leaving the future of India to Great Britain. The British victory over France in the 7 Years' War therefore left Great Britain as the world's dominant colonial power, with a bitter France thirsting for revenge. The evangelical movement inside and outside the Church of England gained strength in the late 18th and early 19th century. The movement challenged the traditional religious sensibility that emphasized a code of honor for the upper class, and suitable behavior for everyone else, together with faithful observances of rituals. John Wesley, 1703–1791, and his followers preached revivalist religion, trying to convert individuals to a personal relationship with Christ through Bible reading, regular prayer, and especially the revival experience. Wesley himself preached 52,000 times, calling on men and women to redeem the time and save their souls. Wesley always operated inside the Church of England, but at his death, it set up outside institutions that became the Methodist Church. 66. It stood alongside the traditional nonconformist churches, Presbyterians, Congregationalists, Baptists, Unitarians and Quakers. The nonconformist churches, however, were less influenced by revivalism. The Church of England remained dominant, but it had a growing evangelical, revivalist faction in the Low Church. Its leaders included William Wilberforce and Hannah More. It reached the upper class through the Clapham sect. It did not seek political reform, but rather the opportunity to save souls through political action by freeing slaves, abolishing the duel, prohibiting cruelty to children and animals, stopping gambling, and avoiding frivolity on the Sabbath. Evangelicals read the Bible every day. All souls were equal in God's view, but not all bodies, so evangelicals did not challenge the hierarchical structure of English society. First British Empire. The First British Empire was based largely in mainland North America and the West Indies, with a growing presence in India. Emigration from Britain went mostly to the 13 colonies and the West Indies, with some to Newfoundland and Nova Scotia. Few permanent settlers went to British India, although many young men went there in the hope of making money and returning home. Part 9 will be continued.